Hello, this is Arturelia Gaming Room Reviews. I'm Arturo, and today I'll be reviewing Tales of Zestiria. I wasn't really interested in. I don't know, maybe the characters didn't really hit me as much. But my mom found it for like a cheap price for the PS3. And it was a good deal, so I was like, you know what, go ahead, buy it for me. And so I got it, and I played it. So what do I think about Tales of Zestiria? Well, today I'll be reviewing this game. Is it bad or good? A lot of people say it wasn't really the best. But what do I think? Let's go.
This bridge is incredible. How do you think it was made?
I think this is beyond the capabilities of human technology.
So, like, the bridge alone might date from the era of the gods?
Saray, a human, and Mikleo, a seraphim, who go on a journey after running into a girl named Alicia, who is from a kingdom. Stuff happens, blah blah blah, won't go into much detail about the story. And so, Saray and Mikleo are set on an adventure, but Saray will be the one to become a shepherd, and to help the world purify malevolence, and to do the right thing. You will run into different characters like Seraph and an assassin, Rose. Now, what did I think about the story? Well, I liked the story, but sometimes when they would talk about certain things, it was a bit confusing. Though if I were to replay it again, maybe not. But when you first play, you may be a little like, okay, so what are they talking about? In general, even if I don't fully understand what they're talking about, I still enjoy the story. I know what the plot's going for. While the story is your typical type of, hero, Saray's the hero, he's going to save the day and stop the bad guys. What makes this story interesting is obviously the other characters alongside Saray. Now, Saray is your typical hero that wants to do the right thing, but his partners are another interesting part of this game. The thing is, when the characters interact in, skits and stuff, it makes it very enjoyable. The soundtrack is pretty good in this game. Even one impactful moment when you're fighting against this boss somewhat close to the end of the story. The gameplay for this Tales game does something a little different, which isn't bad, but it will take time getting used to. It's still fun though. What makes this game shine is obviously the characters, and you get to know the characters a little more during skits and nice animation stuff, whether they're arguing or discussing stuff. As for the gameplay mechanics, the battle system, it is different when you encounter a foe. You fight them right there, like Fire Emblem Fates. What I did like about this game is, if one team is down, your Seraphim gang can pop up while the other Seraphim is healing. Or if your human comrade is down, depending on the meter right here, if you have a number, it can armatize or whatever you call it, a fallen comrade, even if you're down. On the downside, the camera is the issue with this game. Depending on certain points where you're fighting in the map, like let's say if you're in a tight corner, too close to an area, well, the fighting can be a little crazy. The camera jumps around, you can't even see your characters. That is like the one issue you will have with this game, is the camera. The other strange thing that they did was, in every Tales game you just keep hitting buttons, but in here you gotta build up your meters, or whatever it is, before you can launch an attack or a typical attack. It's very different. So when the meter thing goes down, you can't hit. The only way to build it up is if you block, and then it charges back up. And you can even pull special moves as well. You can even hold the L2 button to charge that. However, when you level up, that's probably not necessary. At least I don't think. So even though the camera is probably the big problem with this game, it doesn't take away from the enjoyment of the game. The controls are good, no issues with fighting, but like other Tales games, this is probably my least favorite. I haven't mentioned it on the other reviews, but I will say it's equipping and getting new weapons that are better, probably more high advanced than the ones you've been carrying. Yeah, you usually have to change up your gear, getting new stuff, etc. to stay stronger. That's probably my least favorite part about the Tales games. But when you're fighting foes, there are other things you can do with getting attacks from wind to fire, earth, and water. Your Seraphim have all these elements, and you can use them to your advantage. You can also set up your moves and attacks. And I recently found a new thing in the game for trying out an equipment, though I don't know how effective it is. But yeah, basically, your Seraphim friends have power and you can set their attacks up. This game does have multiplayer for 4 players for the characters. However, I was unable to test that because my sister doesn't really care about a lot of Tales games. As for replay value, you probably already know this, but if you want to play the game again, New Game Plus, and relive the moments again, or play it again. And so there's not really much to talk about except for the fact that, well, I basically enjoyed the game. Yeah, it does suffer with a few issues, but the characters make it worth your time. And yeah, this is the first time the Tales games did this, where they make the battle system different, though everything still stays the same from previous Tales games. Another issue I've also noticed is that the character Alicia, I will give you just one thing about her. Even though they make it look like she is a part of the gang, she's mostly not.
What? Absolutely wrong.
She barely is around with the gang. She's mostly doing her own thing. There is a DLC that's a sequel to, like, after the events of the main story where you get to play as her. But the fact that she's not even playable throughout the whole game, I mean, she is at points, but the rest of the game, no, she's not. It's like, what was the point? She barely is around. It's just the rest of these characters that just keep going while she's doing political stuff. So people will be like, okay, and you know, I was like, though it is a nice thing that they have a DLC about her after the events, though it does kind of end with this weird cliffhanger, but when you do finish the game, you see really the full conclusion.
Planning to kill again, are you?
Naturally.
Tales of Zestiria was not a bad game. It does suffer with some issues. At least from the camera to the fact that, well, at least one character not being around much. However, those don't fully take away. There's still interesting things about this game that I liked. I mean, if you're all for the story and characters, yes, that's the whole point for playing this game. The gameplay is not bad either, even though the camera sucks at points. And not to mention there's an anime of this, which is also based around Berseria, which is a prequel to this game. And I actually really enjoyed it. I really enjoyed the story and interesting stuff with the characters. It was fun. Though sometimes a little challenging depending on where you had to go to find certain things. But overall, I think this game will get an 8 out of 10. It is great. You will enjoy the story if you're a Tales fan. And the characters, and the soundtrack, and everything else about it. Now for my recommendation, there's obviously the prequel, Tales of Berseria, and then there's the anime, Tales of Zestiria, the X, I think that's how it's called, which basically has a little bit of more different stuff thrown in and changes certain scenes from the game, which I think might be a little better. So if I were to say, should you watch the anime or play the game first? I would say, play the game first, and then Berseria, and then the anime. But that's all up to you. If you want another Tales game, well, there's Tales of Zestiria, and then the second one after that. And you could check my review for that here as well. Well, this is Arturelia Gaming Room Reviews, signing off.